On the 16th of December 1944, German forces launched a major offensive through the Ardennes forest in Belgium, Luxembourg and Western Germany against Allied positions held primarily by the US Army. The operation aimed to break through to the Meuse River, capture Antwerp and split British and American forces. German units achieved initial advances that created a pronounced bulge in the Allied front line. Fighting took place in difficult winter conditions and was marked by severe logistical constraints, including fuel shortages. Key engagements occurred around Bastogne, Saint-Vith, Bellave and Schöneberg. By late January 1945, Allied counteroffensives had eliminated the Bulge and restored the front to approximately its pre-offensive positions. During the Battle of the Bulge, a number of massacres occurred, two of which I've already covered on this channel: the Malmedy massacre at the Bonnier Crossroads on the 17th of December 1944 near Malmedy, and the Verret 11, who were murdered a few hours after the Malmedy killings took place. I shall also be doing a video on the shooting of between 20 and 60 German prisoners of war by elements of the US 11th Armored Division at Schögern on the 1st of January 1945. However, there were also killings of at least 19 US prisoners of war at Honsfeld on the 17th of December 1945 by the 1st SS Panzer Division, an unknown number of United States prisoners of war on the 17th and 18th of December at Bulge and Ligneuville. On the 18th to 20th of December 1940 at Stavelot, at least 111 Belgian civilians were murdered by elements of Kampfgruppe Peiper. Unknown numbers of both civilians and prisoners of war were killed at La Glaise and Cheneux, amongst others. In today's videos, I'm going to be discussing a killing that took place on the German-Belgian border during the Battle of the Bulge, and the very first murderer to be executed for war crimes. He was the 30-year-old Curt Bruns, then a regular Wehrmacht officer. Curt Bruns was born on 12th of March 1915 on the island of Juist, part of the Frisian Islands off the north coast of Germany. After leaving school, he worked in a grocery in Stuttgart. He joined the German army in 1936 and was commissioned as an officer on the day the war broke out, the 1st of September 1939. During the war, Bruns served in infantry units and rose in rank. In September 1943, he was promoted to captain. By late 1944, he was married and had one child. His family was living here in Bad Kissingen. On the 16th December 1944, during the opening phase of the Ardennes offensive, US forces captured approximately 30 German soldiers, including Corporal Heinrich Kauter. The Americans took large numbers of prisoners who advanced too far and without proper support. These prisoners were interrogated by two American soldiers who spoke fluent German. However, the tide of war was such that the Germans were advancing for the next few days. On the 20th of December 1944, German forces captured approximately 300 American soldiers near Bellave and Schöneberg. The captors belonged to the 2nd Battalion, 293rd Volksgrenadier Regiment, part of the 18th Volksgrenadier Division. Captain Curt Bruns was commanding elements of this unit at the time. The American soldiers were then taken to a customs house in Bellave, used as a temporary holding location for prisoners of war. Two German soldiers who had been recently released from American captivity informed Bruns that two of the captured Americans spoke German fluently. These men were identified as Staff Sergeant Richard Jacobs and Technician 5th Grade Murray Zappler, both assigned to the 106th Infantry Division Interrogation of Prisoners of War Team number 154. Bruns ordered that Jacobs and Zappler be brought before him. They were separated from the other American prisoners and placed against the wall of the customs house under the supervision of Sergeant Werner Hoffmann. The remaining American prisoners of war were marched away towards Bellave. Bruns questioned Jacobs and Zappler and confirmed that they had both interrogated German prisoners in German. During questioning, both men identified themselves as German Jews. Bruns made a statement to the effect that Jews had no right to live in Germany. After a brief conversation between Bruns and Hauptmann, Hauptmann assembled a firing squad of 5 or 6 non-commissioned officers. Jacobs and Zappler were marched down the road and shot. After being recaptured by US forces, Corporal Heinrich Kauter reported that he had witnessed the killing of 2 American prisoners of war who had identified themselves as Jews from Berlin. Kauter had previously been a member of the Communist Party of Germany. He had been imprisoned in a concentration camp and released, but only to be conscripted into the German army. Kauter provided investigators with a detailed account of the killings, stating that the prisoners were shot while standing at attention with their backs to the firing squad. On the 13th of February 1945, US troops from the 12th Infantry Regiment discovered the bodies of Jacobs and Zappler in a shallow grave, approximately 100 meters from the road near Bleow. The bodies were found face up, and both men were missing their boots. Kauter identified the locations as consistent with the site of the shootings he had described. Curt Bruns was captured on the 7th of February 1945. During interrogation, he admitted to questioning Jacobs and Zappler, but denied ordering their execution. He claimed that the order had been given by a superior officer, Lieutenant Colonel Witter, who had been killed in action. US authorities placed Anton Korn in a cell next to Bruns. He was a conscripted anti-Nazi who had previously been a member of the German Communist Party. He'd been taken prisoner in Normandy, but for the purpose of gathering evidence, he pretended that he was being held for the murder of Belgian civilians. During conversations with Korn, Bruns stated that he had previously separated Jewish prisoners and indicated that they were to be killed. He also stated that he had sworn to devote his life to the destruction of Jews. Bruns further claimed that he'd killed members of his own unit shortly before his capture after they'd expressed a desire to surrender. A US military tribunal convened on the 7th of April 1945 in Düren. Bruns pleaded not guilty and repeated his claim that responsibility lay with his dead superior officer. The prosecution relied primarily on witness testimony. Witnesses included Heinrich Kauter and Anton Korn, who testified regarding Bruns' statements and actions. Another witness was Margarita Matus, a 19-year-old civilian who lived in the customs house at Bleow and knew Bruns. She testified that she had heard Bruns shout at the marching American prisoners and later recounted a conversation with Lieutenant Oppermann, Bruns' adjutant, who stated that 2 Jewish prisoners had been shot because there was no room in Germany for captured Negroes or Jews. The tribunal found Bruns guilty and sentenced him to death by firing squad. The case was reviewed on the 20th of April 1945. Officials determined that the case against Bruns was mostly circumstantial. There were several inconsistencies in the testimony, and not once did any of the witnesses say that they heard Bruns actually give the order to have Jacobs and Zappler murdered. Nonetheless, the guilty verdict was upheld. With the exception of his denial on the stand that he'd actually heard the accused order Sergeant Hoffman to have the prisoners shot, Kauter had been entirely consistent during each of the many pre-trial examinations to which he was subjected. The history of the case disclosed that he was captured and had given his statement before the bodies were recovered or Captain Bruns was apprehended. In fact, it was the testimony of Kauter which instigated the search for the accused. The accused corroborated the testimony of Kauter in every substantial particular, except in his denial of responsibility and in his statement where the execution occurred. The verdict and sentence were confirmed by Colonel Ernst Brannan on the 8th of May 1945. Bruns was shot at a gravel quarry in Denstorf on the 15th of June 1945. He was the first Axis war criminal to be executed by the US military. Thank you very much for listening to this video. As I stated at the outset, I've already done videos relating to the Battle of Bulge, which you can find on this channel. I specialise in the Second World War, above all in the Holocaust, and I live in Germany and Poland. I upload it every day at 2000 hours Central European time. On most days there's a shorts video of up to 3 minutes in length, but on Tuesdays and on Fridays I do longer videos, particularly on Fridays. Documentaries usually of a length such as this one is. I also offer membership of the channel. Membership costs €6, $6 or £5, and that gives you access to currently over 800 members only videos. For the moment, from me, thanks for listening and bye for now.